Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the 28th of January 2020, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, also before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis. So guys, feel free to visit us here, and I believe you can find some useful information. But right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the German DAX. Now, this is a daily chart, and just wanted to show you what happened yesterday. So, we yesterday in my traders Espresso, I talked about this this potential move lower here, where we could see a test of this medium-term upside support line taken from the lowest point of August last year, and we had a perfect test of it. We even had a small overshoot, but looking at the cash index right now, we are seeing a bit of retracement where the price is currently balancing near the 13,280 zone, maybe just slightly a few points higher than that, but nevertheless we had a nice rebound here. The big question now, can this stay above this line, or will this actually eventually get a break and we will see a further decline? Now, the way you could play this one out right now is, of course, keep your eyes on the lows of yesterday near the 13,200 mark or so, or in a way the 13,195 zone. So if we do get a drop below this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could start aiming for the downside. The reason why we're not talking about the downside, because again, it's a very tricky situation. On one hand, we are above this medium-term upside line still, so, and looking at the cash index right now, we are having a nice rebound, but on the other hand, the weakness in the equity markets right now, in relation to, of course, the coronavirus and in general the unstable geopolitical situations. So for now, keep your eyes on this level. Basically, from the technical side, the way we can play this one out is if we get a drop below the low of yesterday near the 13,195, then yes, we will aim for further declines. And for further declines, I mean further declines, I mean the areas around the slightly below the psychological 13,000 level, so near the 12,950 zone, which is the low of the 6th of January, or in other words, actually the lowest point of January for now, and then we could aim for the 12,886 zone, which is the low of the 10th of December, or in other words, the lowest point of December. Now, again, there are some good levels here underneath, but we need that confirmation break first before examining a further decline. If it continues to trade above this upside line, well, for us to get, let's say, a little bit more excited about higher areas, let me just adjust a few levels here, guys. Now, we will keep an eye on this little territory near the 13,386, or even we can lift it a little bit towards the high of yesterday near the 13,400 zone. If we get a push back above this, and this is, don't forget, this is a daily chart, we could also see the price traveling back above the 21 EMA here on the daily chart. So that's why it could become a little bit more interesting for the buyers if we get a nice push back above the 13,400 level. In terms of, like I said, but for now, probably I would say that remain cautious, remain neutral, although yes, we are still above this medium-term upside line, everything can change very quickly. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. Brent Oil. Now, I haven't looked at this one for quite a while. Again, I'll stay on the daily chart on this one. So after we had a nice break of this medium-term upside line taken from the low of the 3rd of October, you can see that the commodity dropped not only below this upside line, but also dropped below the 63.04 area. I talked about this one, and it closed below it, and you can see this is the effect that we had. Now, initially I was targeting, when I was previously talking about Brent Oil, I was targeting the 60.32 zone, but as you can see, the commodity drifted even further down and found support around here near the 58.50 zone. So this will be the level that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Of course, still this level is an interesting one for us as well, the 60.32, and the way we could play this one out right now is, of course, the sentiment is more to the downside right now, but given the steep declines that we had already, we may see a bit of correction here first, and let's say if it struggles to push above the 60.32 zone, we could see another round of selling, which could potentially bring the price back to the 58.50 zone, and then if that fails to withhold, a break of it would confirm a forthcoming lower low. And don't get me wrong, we do have a nice potential area of support around right here near the 56.17 mark, which is the low of the 3rd of October. Now, could be a nice area for a test, but again, for now, do not exclude a potential correction first. At the same time, let me just quickly clear some of these levels here away. Now, at the same time, what you should keep an eye on as well is a short-term, a bit, for now it's very tentative, but nevertheless a short-term downside resistance line right here. So in a way, any kind of pullback here towards this line, and if this line holds, well, I mean, you probably understand what I'm going to say now. We will remain bearish. Basically, we will continue targeting the downside. If this downside line breaks, yes, in a way we could start considering higher levels. The only thing is that probably at this point, and the way everything's structured right now, ideally we would like to see a push back above the 63 level first before considering higher areas again. So that's why, guys, for now we're leaning more towards the downside, but we'll keep an eye on a potential correction first. Bitcoin now. I talked about this one last week, and this is where I was saying that if we see a drop below the 8,470 territory, still, yes, this is kind of making the bulls worried a little bit, but not all is lost for them. And you can see this is what I was talking about last week. And let me just jump into a 4-hour chart. I was talking about this potential correction here, because if it stays above the downside line, this previous downside line, we may see another round of buying here, which could potentially drag this one back towards the 9,150 zone. As you can see now, this is the level that's keeping the price lower for now, and this is the overall picture on the daily chart. So of course all this is looking quite bullish, and in a way, if we get a nice good break, and ideally a close of a daily candle above the 9,150 zone, then yes, we will consider a possible move higher. So towards initially the 9,600 level, and then maybe even going all the way towards the psychological 10,000. But again, of course, let's not get ahead of ourselves too much first. The main question, can this stay above the 9,500 level? So let's keep an eye on this one, guys. In terms of the downside, well, it's the same idea. We need to see a drop back below this downside line and drop back below the 7,689 zone before considering a possible decline here. But again, like I said, the downside could be slightly off the table. AUDUSD. So AUDUSD. Also, I'm gonna stick to the daily chart for now because it's a very clear picture we're seeing, and basically it managed to break, of course, managed to break the this upside support line taken from the low of the 2nd of October. And now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna still keep an eye on it in case this suddenly reverses and pushes back to the upside. But looking at this structure right now, we can see that it's finding good support near the low of the 29th of November, around the 0.675150 territory. In a way, we could see maybe a bit of correction here, maybe a push back towards the 0.6797 or even the 0.68 mark. And if it holds, if it keeps the rate down, then yep, this could result in another round of selling. And don't get me wrong, we do have some nice areas of support right here underneath, which could get tested as well, and so that's why we're gonna aim for those first. Don't get me wrong, if we also get another strong move below the 0.6750 territory, well, we'll aim for these 0.6710 area, and maybe just slightly above that. We'll aim for these first, and yep, we'll take it from there after. You can also keep an eye on this little short-term tentative downside resistance line taken from the highest point of January. But again, for us, yep, this is the kind of the area where the bears could still dominate, and up until this downside line, all this can still remain under control of the bears. If the push happens through this downside line, then, well, yes, we will consider a possible move towards the 0.6823 level here, but ideally we would prefer to see this one climbing back above this upside line, and then yes, we would get a little bit more comfortable with the upside, because even if we see a push above the above this downside line, still all this territory is kind of a tricky one still, because in a way this could be no man's zone, and we could see basically maybe the bears stepping in here, or the bulls basically could be a little bit of a mess around here. So that's why we will wait for a push back above this upside line before considering the upside again. GBPJPY now, looking at this picture, you can see that it's finally testing. And this is what I talked about recently, and this is what I talked about recently in one of my videos where I covered JPY, and this was mainly last week. But what I was saying, that in a way, this for now it continues to balance above this medium-term upside support line taken from the low of the 3rd of September. But let me just jump into a 4-hour chart to see the activity around this. So basically, it tested the upside line, but as you can see, the upside line for right now, it seems to be failing. So, which means that there is a good likelihood we could see this one drifting lower. The only problem here, and let me just actually get rid of all the lines because they're slightly in the way now, and let me just draw this one again very quickly. So this is our upside line, and you can see that the price right now, or should I say the rate right now, is kind of balancing just fractionally above it, just around it. So in a way, even if we see a drop below this upside line, yes, we could start considering lower areas, but to be honest, to be on the safe side, well, we would prefer to see a drift below the initially the 141.14 zone, and kind of the last kind of option for the bulls to step in here could be around the 140.80. But if that fails as well, well, this could result in a very bad situation here for the bulls, and we could see this one starting to drift even further down. And we do have some good areas of support right here near the 139.28-29 zone, and this could be our first target. But again, long story short, basically, guys, for us to get comfortable with the downside, this is the drop that we need. We need to drop below this area before kind of like I said, examining the downside. In terms of the upside, if it holds, if this upside line holds, of course the more cautious approach would be to wait for a push above the 144.61, but in a way we could start considering the upside if we get a push above the 143.18 level again, because this way the rate would climb back above all of its EMAs on the 4-hour chart, and yep, this could increase the chances of a potential move back here to the upside, back to the highs of January, or should I say the highest point of January, near the 146 or 44.61. So keep your eyes on these two areas, guys. Let's see which way this is going to play out. But for now, the recommendation will be to remain neutral and just wait for that confirmation breakthrough one of the sides. EURUSD. So EURUSD, I talked about this one, and basically I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on the psychological 110 territory. Yesterday it did have an attempt to move lower, but as you can see, it kind of failed to reach this 1.10 zone. So we're still gonna keep an eye on it, but let's get rid of this line here for now, because this is no longer valid. But we'll keep an eye on this 1.10 zone. If it holds, we could see a nice rebound and a drift back to the this very short-term tentative downside line taken from the high of the 16th of January. And if it holds, we could see another round of selling, potentially sending the pair towards the 1.0980 level, which is the low of the 29th of November. Of course, if this very short-term downside line breaks, then it could open the path towards this other short-term downside line taken, but this one is taken from the high of the 31st of December, and then we'll take it from there, see what it wants to do. But if it, like I said, for now, guys, the psychological 110 zone is very close, so in a way we could see a test of it. If it holds, we could see a nice rebound and a push towards this downside line, this very short-term downside line, and then yep, we'll take it from there. Because if it holds, we could see another round of selling, but if it breaks, this could open the path towards the other downside line, where we could see like a larger correction here to the upside, and this is what the bears would be waiting as well, because they would probably most likely to like to enter somewhere around here if the pair decides to travel all the way here towards this downside line taken from the high of the 31st of December. So guys, okay, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me later on at my Traders Tea Time, as always, that's 14:15 GMT. For now, guys, I hope you stay safe, be very careful. We do have a few events coming out today, so on the calendar. So we do have the ECB consumer confidence figure, core durable goods, something to keep an eye on, and shortly we will be having some data from Sweden for those who are like to trade the Swedish krone. So yep, keep your eyes on that one as well, guys. Yep, I'll see you later at my Traders Tea Time, 14:15 GMT. Thank you very much, and bye bye.